So here I am once more on Grab a Stack of Rock. Welcome to the show, folks.
Friday night, we're rocking the races. Come and see familiar faces. Uncle Meat, Rob Daniels, Jon Snow. Gilly's here, it's the place to go. Grab a stack of rock with Mike and the Brad Metal Man. Grab a stack of rock and hold on tight as hard as you can. T-Bone's here, it's time for a party. And Chris has got the comments started. Grab a stack of rock with Mike and the Bad Metal Man. Grab a stack of rock and hold on tight as hard as you can. Grab a stack of rock. Grab a stack of rock.
Hey, Todd.
Hey,
I like your shirt.
I have a stack. Thank you. I got
This
a
is
stack right here.
This is the first time I haven't worn one of those on the show in quite a while.
I almost wore a Marillion shirt, but
I appreciate what you've done. We are awaiting Uncle Meat. His computer just did a restart as we were chatting before the show, but I'm not sure exactly.
I hate when that happens.
Right. He's thrown my game off. So, I was going to start the show with a little thing called Ask Uncle Meat, but since he's not here, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Todd, what was your point of entry with Marillion?
My point of entry with Marillion is that I was working at a record store, Turtles in Atlanta. The Turtles is the name of the record store. 1983. And my store manager had a promo copy of this right here. And he put it on and he said, some people think that this guy named Fish is actually Peter Gabriel. That was like a conspiracy theory back then. And I thought, and we all listened to it and we went, no, that's not Peter Gabriel. It's really good though. So
I can see why they'd say that.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that was my point of entry.
Now I see Uncle Meat has joined, but I don't know if. Oh, we do have video. Good. Okay, there he is.
There he is.
He's a little frozen, but his computer just did a restart, like literally minutes ago.
Oh, there you go.
We have movement. This is like one of those pixelated videos from, the early internet age, right around the time, Marillion.com, for example, was happening.
When we used to say, isn't it amazing? We can watch videos on our computer. Wow.
And it looked exactly like what you're seeing right now. And Roger, you hilarious gentleman, you. Henry discovered Marillion in the summer of '88. He was working a summer job in maintenance, and one of the crew had a cassette of Misplaced Childhood. I imagine that was an entry point for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's also a good time to discover them. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I am not sure what is going to happen here. Let's see. What else can I do to stall? Well, I'll talk about my entry point to Marillion.
Okay.
I'm sure this gentleman will come up during the course of the evening, but Meat and I have a mutual friend called Iron Tom Sharp, and that's a nickname based on the
got a cool name,
the Canadian wrestler Iron Mike Sharp, and he just dubbed himself Iron Tom Sharp, and why not? I went over to his house a number of times for a bunch of great house parties, and he always had these Marillion posters all over the walls, and it was for albums and 12-inch singles, and
they're all so good. Yeah,
right.
They're all so cool looking.
I couldn't help but stare at these posters and just gawk at them, and the fact that they had all these 12-inch singles and includes the B-sides, that just kind of triggered that collector's gene, and we've lost him. And one day when I was working in my record store, a guy came in and traded in 3 Marillion remasters, the 98 series, the 2 CD sets.
Yeah.
Which are still great, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, I love those. In fact, those are my main go-tos. I'm looking for a copy I can show that doesn't have a price sticker on it. There you go. These.
There's one. That's actually one of the harder ones to get back in the day.
Yeah.
Anyway, this guy came in with 3, and I want to say it was Season's End, Script, and Misplaced. So just having known of the reputation of the band, I grabbed Misplaced and played it about 3 times that weekend at the cottage, and that was where it began. It was the summer of '99. And yeah, they're great versions, and we'll see a few of them tonight. Uncle Meat, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I guess the computer wasn't working, eh?
Oh, yeah, I'm using my phone now. Like, it finally updated and everything, but literal lag. Hi, Todd.
Hi.
I'm sorry for the...
Okay. Hopefully, are you still there?
It is good to meet you.
It's good to meet you too.
Where are you from?
I am. I currently live in suburban Atlanta, Georgia, Kennesaw to be more specific. But I'm from Buffalo, New York originally.
I think he's got a bad connection.
Yeah. I hope where are you from was
where are you?
The question asked.
From?
Suburban Atlanta, Georgia. Originally Buffalo, New York.
Yeah.
Are you
cool?
Are you reading us okay? Are you able to hear us?
Go on. I can hear you. It seems like every once in a while I'm lagging. So
okay,
I'll do my best.
We will just do our best. We were going to start the show with a little thing called Ask Uncle Meat, because some of the newer viewers may not be as familiar with you. So why don't we run that question? You can answer it real quick, and then we will start the lists.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. So here's a question from a loyal viewer.
Hello, wonderful people. That is a sea turtle, my friends. Good to see everyone. Uncle Meat, question time. Why do they call you Uncle Meat? And also, side question, is there an Uncle Meat alternative? Like Uncle Tofu? That's it for me. Have a great show, guys.
He cracks me up.
I like
the questions we all want to ask.
I like Uncle Tofu. That's kind of cool. And wow, is he ever good looking? He's like John Krasinski good looking. That guy.
He's like Brad Pitt.
Kind of like that. I'll be really quick. The Uncle Meat was actually started pretty much by Ladano a few years ago, but the Meat thing was in college. I was a big Letterman fan, and one night he said to Paul Schaefer, "Paul, this year for Christmas, I'm giving the gift of meat." And well, I went to school the next day, and I just kept saying it over and over and over and over again. And that was early '90s, and I'm still meat. So that's how it goes.
Excellent. We got the gist of most of that.
As naughty as it could be. That's what everyone asks. Oh, it's called meat. Oh, no, it's nothing good.
No. Nothing. It's there. By the way, is the album Uncle Meat? By the way,
right?
Is the album.
So there you go.
Yeah. All right. Let's get on with the show.
If I should try once again, like one more time, to do
with the reconnect.
Okay.
Go ahead. We're gonna start, but you go ahead.
Pardon? Well, yeah, I just once I'm going to try the laptop again to see if it's settled down after all these updates. But okay, I'm really sorry. Okay.
No worries.
Okay,
nope,
I will.
Give it a try. Give it a try.
We'll be here.
Yep. All right. So the idea here was to take the Marillion studio albums, and of course we do the Nigel Tufnell top 10, which goes up to 11. So, it becomes a matter of elimination towards the end of this list. We start with number 11 and count our way up to 1. So what was your number 11? What made the cut? I'm sure that this was a painful point of the list when you had to figure out
It
what you're
was.
excluding.
It was. There were two albums gunning for that number 11 spot. And I was actually having a conversation with Uncle Meat. We were talking about this one particular album that he said that well, I'm sure I'm not picking this one. And I said, well, I probably won't either. But I ended up picking it. And it is, drum roll, Holidays in Eden is my number 11. And here's the 2022 version there. And the reason I picked it is because, there seems to be conventional wisdom says that a lot of people think this is one of the weaker ones because they had a lot of trouble. They were kind of having writer's block when they made it. They were having a little bit of trouble, and they were trying to keep the record company happy. They had been signed to IRS in the States, and they were going to trying to keep EMI happy and IRS happy. And they had Christopher Neal producing, the guy who does Mike and the Mechanics. And, I think what ended up happening is you got some real kind of Marillion standards on this record. I mean, Cover My Eyes, Pain in Heaven, Holidays in Eden, Dry Land. And I think that the more proggy parts of the album, like Splintering Heart and The Party and This Town and Rakes Progress and 100 Nights, are good. So I there were a lot of concert staples that came from this album, and I think it deserves to be listed. We'll talk a little bit as we go along about how I actually kind of want Marillion to head in this direction a little more often than they do. So I'll elaborate on that as we go.
Okay. Well, while we wait for Meat to come back, I may as well jump in and give you my number 11 because it happens to be Holidays in Eden. And
excellent.
It was tough. It was tough. I do think it deserved to make the cut because of especially Cover My Eyes and Dry Land. Cover My Eyes is one of those songs that I use to introduce people to Marillion who may be of a certain kind of rock persuasion. Bon Jovi fans, for example, I think would really dig Cover My Eyes. Def Leppard fans, that kind of rock. It's really anthemic, and Hogarth really hit some impressive notes on that chorus.
Yeah, he does. Great videos on that album too. I mean, the videos are very of their time, but competitive. If you look at other videos from other bands like Whitesnake and all those kinds of bands, those videos look like they could be on MTV right next to those. Marillion.com, I meant to say, was the album that I almost made number 11.
Almost made the cut.
And it got cut.
Okay. We may be discussing that album later.
Okay.
Anyway, it's not my favorite, obviously. I find it a tad too commercial, especially with No One Can Take You Away From Me. I find that
I agree, although I love that song, but yeah, I agree.
Well, I know. I was singing along to it today, and I also find The Party just a little on the dark side. Not that that's a bad thing, just I don't know. It doesn't quite jive with my gears. But
I don't care for the subject matter on The Party. It's right. Yeah.
What else? Splintering Heart's fantastic. I love that looped. I'm assuming it's a loop. That looped intro, the keyboards, fantastic. Mark Kelly is the secret weapon of this band, as I will attest to later on. And let me see. As far as B-sides go, we had Sympathy and How Can It Hurt. And I wasn't too big of a fan of those two songs. A Collection is another one that's a little creepy. Mm-hmm. And I also wanted to just shine a light real quick on Dry Land. I love that. I don't know if it's samples, but the string part.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. It's fantastic. I'm assuming that it's keyboards, but I don't know that for fact. Just I know Mark Kelly can do anything.
Yeah.
And I also have the gosh, what was the name of Hogarth's band before this? They did that song.
How We Live.
Their album. How We Live. I have that.
Yeah.
I have that version as well. And it doesn't. This is the definitive version. They
do you have a physical copy of that? Because I only have.
I do.
I only have different bitrate versions of every song that I got from not legal means. So
gotcha. No, I do. I have a physical copy. It was when they did a reissue on Racket Records with bonus tracks. So that was
Yeah,
a pretty good find.
But yes, I needed. That, but yes, I needed. Maybe that will come up again or get reissued or something. Oh,
All
here we go.
right. Are we here? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
There's some lag. Oh, this is the best yet. Okay, Meat. We just did our number 11 with both. We both picked the same one. Holidays
Yeah, and I know I
Eden.
told
Really?
you that I wasn't going to pick that one, but I picked it anyway. In the number 11 spot.
So now it's up to you.
What
to
did
do
you
your
both
number
pick?
11. Holidays in
What did you
Eden.
both pick? Well, that's really funny because that is my number 11, and I'll be as quick as possible. It almost shouldn't be my number 11 because I'm kind of putting this on my list to exercise some demons. Because when it comes down to it, Holidays in Eden is responsible for me discarding Marillion for a lot of years. It's kind of ironic that the Metallica's Black Album and Holidays in Eden came out 2 weeks apart from each other, and both of them were albums that ended my love affair, extreme love affair with both bands. So, but on a re-listen, I realized it just was better than I thought it was. Even though it has Cover My Eyes, which is a complete U2 Where the Streets Have No Name ripoff. And there's another song, and of course I lost all my notes, so that, anyway, I'm not going to complain. But there's the song, the fourth song, I can't remember what it's called, but it sounds like "Missing You" by John Waite. It's just
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I knew
Yes.
you were going to go there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew that song.
So
would do nothing
basically,
for you.
it's my number 11 to make a point to myself. So it had to be there.
To be fair, and Todd addressed this in his statement. They were having writer's block. Something about Hogarth was like writing up a storm while the other guys were like plinking away at their instruments, and he had to actually physically leave for a few weeks and take a vacation because he was going nuts waiting for the other guys. So that's a true story.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, Todd, number
Well,
10 for you.
That's interesting.
Okay.
I
Number
didn't know
10 is where
Very cool.
is where I start the controversy. It's when
Okay.
when the hate mail comes rolling in.
Okay.
My number 10 is Misplaced Childhood.
I knew you as soon as you said controversy. I was like, he's not putting Misplaced at number 10, is he?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry you're gonna make me drink another can of lager.
I had a friend back then who hated Marillion just because he doesn't like the way he says lager. But anyway, bad reason to not like Marillion, by the way.
Henry says,
I love this
"Boo."
album. I love this album. And you know, there's something about this is when Fish started to really sing really well. And he in my opinion, he doesn't start really singing really well until the album comes out after this. But this album is really charming. It's got some beautiful music on it. And it was the first one. It wasn't the first one I heard, but it was the first one that I really fell in love with. But that being said, Fish can get on my nerves. And he kind of does on this album. I mean, it's kind of like, like the first album, he was like, the web. And then this album, he's like, childhood. And it's like, childhood. There are moments where there's a little bit too much talking, and I love spoken word. I'm a huge Supertramp fan. I love spoken word. But some of the spoken word, the carnation will rot in a vase. It's kind of, it hasn't aged well for me. So Misplaced Childhood is kind of dropped.
Okay. That's
But
fair.
they've got a lot of albums. So
they do.
Okay.
number 10 isn't bad.
Fair enough.
Wow. I there's nothing like making a statement right off the bat. I love it. I can't agree. I can't agree at all. But I love that you have that opinion, and I know you're a huge fan, and you have every album. So it's not like you're just
No,
neat way to start.
that is a thought out opinion. That is not something
I
you
promise
need-
I will
Absolutely.
be less controversial as the evening goes on.
Absolutely. reasons. There you go.
Okay.
Is it my turn?
Are you going to be controversial?
I don't know if I'm going to be controversial, but I will say that my number 10 is from 1994, and it's Brave. And I almost put it at 11 or almost didn't even put it on this list because that, speaking of an album that hasn't aged well, I think Brave hasn't aged well. And it's so dour. It's depressing, times depressing. And really, like, I should love it because it's a concept album. I love the whole idea of it. Really, on my re-listen, I only really love the last song. I Made Again, and because it's completely different than the whole album. It's positive. It's based on melody. It's based on building and just a great song. So Brave couldn't be any higher than 10 for me. I had no choice.
Okay. Well, that could also be considered a contrarian and controversial opinion.
It could, yeah.
Because that is an esteemed album, and I know for sure that we'll be talking about it again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure.
But I'm not going to be too controversial here. Todd was thinking about putting this album at number 11, so for me to have it at my number 10 isn't super controversial. I remember the year this came out, 1999, the year I discovered Marillion. Remember Tom Morwood said something. He said there's two bands that put out .com albums this year, and they both sucked. He was talking about J.
What was the other one?
J. Todd.
Yeah, Jeff Tall.
Yeah.
And
he was half right.
I get where he's coming from, because a guy like Tom Morwood, there's no way he's going to like the song House with that kind of dub sound. I don't think Tom Morwood's going to like Tumble Down the Years, that kind of jaunty, we're growing old together, we're tumbling down the years together. I can't see him being into that kind of music, but there's some good stuff on here if you're willing to stretch out a little bit. I think the song Rich in particular is just uplifting, great stuff. It's just so catchy. It's kind of like a Cover My Eyes level of catchiness. I think Deserve is great. There's a great sax solo on Deserve. You don't hear a lot of sax soloing in Marillion. Built-in Bastard Radar is kind of a fun lyric. But the epic on this album is a song called Interior Lulu, and it kind of goes on for, I don't know, 12, 13 minutes, not sure exactly how long. And it builds and it builds and it builds, and it kind of turns into this wave of just music and chaos coming right at you at the end. And then they follow it with the song House, which is this really quiet kind of dub song. And it's a very brave album. I can totally understand why it doesn't click with everyone, but I think it deserves a little bit I think it deserves a little bit more listening time.
I agree.
There you go.
And two things. Well, one thing that I always remembered about that album is that there was somebody was doing an interview with Mark Kelly, and they were and it was like a chat. It was back in the early days of when they used to do those kinds of things, and somebody said, I really love the keyboard solo in Interior Lulu. And Mark Kelly said, the widdly bits. And so whenever I hear him play a solo that's kind of like that, I always say that in my head in Mark Kelly's voice, the widdly bits. And the other thing I wanted to say about that album is it's not on my list, but I love A Legacy, and nobody ever talks about that. I think that song is really intense and cool. I love that song. Nobody ever.
You're right. That one does kind of sail past me most listens, but it is intense. Yeah. Quietly intense.
Yeah.
I had a thought and then I just lost it. So Mark Kelly, our mutual friend, Iron Tom, they saw Marillion when they played in Kitchener in '89. And I remember one of the guys saying that they played pool with Mark Kelly, and his Irish accent was so thick, they didn't understand a word he said. He was like, blah, 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 and they'd be like, Anyway,
It's true.
number 9 for Todd.
Number 9 for me. Oh, well, I just got done saying I wasn't going to be controversial, and here I go again. Number 9 for me, and this is going to kind of build on what I started talking about when I was talking about Holidays in Eden. Number 9 for me is Somewhere Else. Is a very maligned album, but I got to tell you something. Now, I mentioned this a few minutes ago. I kind of feel like Marillion in their later period has made a lot of really cool, really deep, really unstructured or uniquely structured records. And it's almost as if they follow no rules. There are times when I feel like I'd like Marillion to get centered a little bit. I'd like to hear like a Marillion song that's not 7 parts and, split up on CD so you can't put it in a shuffle. This album
hard
really
to find with Marillion.
Yeah, this album really gives you a lot of that. The first song, The Other Half, I just think is a I think it's a top. I don't know if it's a top 10 Marillion song, but it's a top 20 Marillion song. Concise, about 3.5 minutes. It's got a great Steve Rothery solo in it. And I also think, let's see, The Wound is great. Last Century for Man is great. A Voice from the Past I think that is a top 10 Marillion song. And a lot of people dismiss this album because it came after Marbles, and it's not like Marbles.
No.
But there are some people that say that the production is a little bit off. And, it's not the best sounding Marillion album. But I have to say, I had to put, in reassessing these in the last 2 weeks, I had to move that one up. So that's my number 9.
Well, interesting you should mention the production, because I just looked, and it's produced by Mike Hunter. The previous 2 were produced by Dave Meegan, and I remember it was a big deal that they were crowdfunding those albums so they could afford Dave Meegan, and they acknowledged at the time that Meegan really had a huge impact on the overall sound. I also noticed, I think you have the same version as me, with the 3 live bonus tracks exclusive to vinyl.
Yeah. Yeah, the only thing I don't like about this is they mess with the continuity of the album to get
track
it to fit.
order.
So that's
look, me smiling because I said bonus tracks.
Yeah,
of course.
All right, Meat, you're number 9.
My number 9 is from 2004, and it is the album.
I'm assuming he's saying Marbles.
He has to be.
Process Marbles that I like again. Anyway, you remember Ryan Mitchell? Mm-hmm. Can you hear me, Mike?
Yes. Can hear you fine. Yes.
Do you remember Ryan Mitchell? I have met his father, Dave Mitchell, and he's become a buddy of mine. And we've had some interesting Marillion conversations because he is a huge fan, and he kind of started like a few months ago that I started really starting to, well, there's some albums that I really need to, to get known to me. And
yes,
and what he said about Marbles was that he likes all the songs that aren't called Marbles. And
and Marbles parts 1 through 4.
I think I agree. Yeah,
with that. And that's no, but that's exact. When I listened to him, I'm like, he's right. All the songs that aren't Marbles are really, really good. Like The Invisible Man is excellent. I really loved it, and Ocean Cloud is excellent as well. I mean, I guess I'm kind of privy more to the longer Marillion stuff, in my heart, and listening to Marbles and really getting into it. I was like, wow, there really is some great stuff on here that I missed, and I'm really glad that I now have it in my brain because it's great. It's really, really good stuff. So, Marbles was my number 9.
We'll be going into Marbles in a lot of depth. Trust me. But my number 9,
cool.
I have 3 copies of here because each one is different tracks, of course. But I'm going to be a little controversial by putting This Strange Engine this high on my list. This is the album that Iron Tom refers to as the Hootie and the Blowfish album.
Oh, that's not fair.
That is not fair, but I get what he means. It's the upbeat acoustic one. It's the happy
medium fair. One. It's medium fair.
It's medium fair. I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for Celtic influences in songs. So when I first heard 80 Days and all that jaunty the keyboard solo.
I was all over that. I absolutely loved that when I heard it.
I love 80 Days. I love Man of a Thousand Faces, and the way it builds and builds and builds is just epic. I think Accidental Man is a pretty cool rocking tune. I even like Message of Hope for the Future, where it goes all I caramba and it goes Fool in the Rain towards the end there,
It does.
Very Fool in the Rain. And of course it has another epic here, This Strange Engine. At the time, do you remember there was that one promo CD that they were selling on their website called Marillion.co.uk?
Yes.
It had a track on there, a Marillion electronic press kit, and somebody in that interview bit says that Marillion is current Marillion with Steve Hogarth. Marillion songs are about death and water. There's a lot of death and there's a lot of water on this album. In particular, there's a song called Memory of Water, which has absolutely no rock instrumentation on it whatsoever. I don't think any members of Marillion play an instrument on that song. It's all strings. We'll talk about that song a little bit more later on, but I think this is a brave album, even though it's not called Brave. I think it's much maligned, and I understand why, which kind of makes me almost more of a booster for it. It kind of makes me want to say, well, you're wrong because of this, 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 and this. And incidentally, the versions are the Digipack, which has a clipped version of Memory of Water with the first line missing. And we have the regular jewel case version, which has 2 bonus tracks. And then we have the Japanese version with 2 completely different bonus tracks. But no matter which version you get, it ends with like a minute of Steve Hogarth laughing hysterically. True story. Wow. And Davey says, all the best freaks are here. All the best freaks are here. Please stop staring at me.
So that's got to be one of the best B-sides of all time, that song.
Oh, that's a great song. Now, I just want to say, when it came to revisiting albums that I had bad thoughts in my heart for, there was This Strange Engine and Holidays in Eden. And Holidays in Eden proved to me that there was stuff on it that I really liked. This Strange Engine, no. Well, I really don't like it, and I really hated it as much as I did 20 years ago or whatever.
I think it depends on what was happening in your life at the time. And at this time, this was the first crowdfunded album. And at this point, I was living in Los Angeles, and I got to see Marillion at the House of Blues. And during this tour, and I got to see them at the Coach House in San Juan Capistrano. So I saw them twice on this tour. So that sort of clouds my opinion of this album, because I always think of it as being related to those times. Get to see Marillion twice after not seeing them for like 8 years.
That's fair.
This is also the first time they released 2 double live albums after a studio album. They had Piston Broke, which was a double live, and of course the very rare Marillion Rochester double live, which I showed off on one of my prior episodes. That was the that was the reward for crowdfunding, was that you got this double live album that they've never reissued, and they say they never will, and I hope that's true.
Well, Steve Hogarth had a bad cold during the recording of that Rochester album, and so I don't think he's crazy about it. His voice is a little rough.
Great to me.
It sounds good to me. Yeah.
Him having a cold is like, anyway, that was my number 9. That brings us to number 8 with Todd. Is he going to continue controversy?
Well, unfortunately, to some may think this is controversial. My number 8 is Clutching at Straws. And I got this one. I got this one at McKay in Chattanooga, where, of course, it was in the scratched section. it's not scratched. It's perfect. So
I officially now have no idea what's coming after this.
This is I think this is a better album than Misplaced Childhood. I think that White Russian and Sugar Mice and Warm Wet Circles and Incommunicado are both just fantastic. I think this was Fish becoming a really great singer before our eyes. I give it I knock some points off of it for it being lyrically very much about Fish and his problems. It's, oh, I can't stop drinking. Oh, I can't see my kids. And it becomes a little bit tedious for me. But a great album. And when it came out, I was over the moon because for it being the follow-up of Misplaced Childhood, I just thought it really hit the mark.
And really, two concept albums in a row, really. When
Yeah.
you think about it.
Yeah.
Davey is...
And I love the cover. I think the cover is for here. I'll take it out so you don't see that
Oh.
sticker. I think the cover's amazing. I think the cover is so good.
Oh,
The funny thing is, Mark Wilkinson thinks that's like one of the worst covers he's ever done because it wasn't the vision. They wanted that bar filled with the denizens of rock heaven, like packed, and he only had time to do like 5 or 6 figures, and he hastily pasted them in there. He feels that cover was rushed and it's not nearly what it should have been. Davey
that may be true. He would know.
This is a good point here, and this is what we talked about earlier about how hard it was to cut things at the very end, and it was right around that point, the bottom couple. Right, Less is More is the remake album, the acoustic album. I'm not sure what the remake album is because I've lost track, to be honest with you.
That would be Marillion and what do they call that thing? Tales from the
Symphony?
Engine Room. I think that's what he's talking about. That Tales from the Engine Room.
Maybe.
It came out after The Strange Engine. It was like
I have that one.
all dub versions and
yes, that's the remix album with the Positive Light were the name of the guys. That's
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember that.
That's right. Yeah, I completely forget about that EP all the time, which is
I don't
probably
count
the
it.
best.
So
No. Okay, Meat
Todd,
Man.
it's interesting. Just one second. I just want to say, Todd, it's interesting. The vocally thing you're talking about with Fisher. I honestly think by far the best vocals I ever heard Fish do was in Vigil. His voice was almost perfect on that album. And and it's funny because I ended up seeing him live on, I'm pretty sure it was very early in the Exile tour, and his voice still was pretty good then, and then it really went down pretty quickly. But I honestly thought that his voice on Vigil is the best stuff he's put to record.
Yeah, that's probably the peak. There's a up, and then there's a little plateau there for Clutching and Vigil, and then it starts going down again.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. It is my turn.
It is your turn.
Number 8 is the latest album by Marillion. An hour before the start, 2022. Now,
my cassette.
a good buddy of mine.
Whoa.
A good buddy of mine, Scott Jeffross. He told me, about a year and a half ago, that I should check this album out, and I did, and I liked it then, and then now, from doing this, I listened to it a couple times, and I really, really like it. First of all, Burning Machines is, to me, it almost should have been something that could have charted or something. I just think it's a brilliant song. I think I think the prog fans would like it. I think the rock fans would like it. I think the pop fans would like it. I just think it's a really great song. I love Sierra Leone. I love Care. Basically, the whole album is really, really, really good. And there was no way that I was going to put it any lower than 7th at this point. So there you go. Number 7. That is 7, right?
Yes,
No,
we're at
6, 8. 8. 8. Sorry.
Yes,
That's eight.
sorry. Okay, so
Yep.
my number 8 is an album I have a couple copies of here. And I'm just going to start with what Meat said about this album earlier, about how his favorite song is the last one because it's bright and hopeful and it's a brand new morning. Well, here's the interesting thing, Meat. When you buy this album on vinyl, you don't necessarily get that listening experience. It's a toss of a coin, literally. This album has a double-sided side D. If you drop the needle on side D, you either get Made Again or you get 20 minutes of water sounds.
Still peaceful.
It's very peaceful, but
Yeah.
one of those songs implies a happy ending to the concept album where there's a bright blue morning. The other one implies that the person jumps off the bridge. And that's the 20 minutes of water sounds.
So was that the person that was made to listen to the whole album through and then they jumped off the bridge?
Yes, that's exactly right. Anyway, it's not an easy listen. I played it again today, and I think there's some great stuff on here. It's very rewarding when I do come back to it. It just doesn't make me feel good. There's some great stuff on here though, just kind of buried within. I love Tell Me I'm Mad. Love that whole bit, the whole mad section. I love when Hogarth sings, "The Cold War's gone, but those bastards will give us another one." And wasn't that prophetic? But just the way he sings that, "Those bastards will give us another one," you know? And how many bands use Uilleann pipes? The title track here has that. It's a brilliant song. You wouldn't think it's by a rock band. You might think it's by some Celtic band. But again, I've been coming back to that. I love that sound. It would be higher if it made me feel better when I listened to it. But it's not that kind of album. It doesn't make you feel better when you listen to it, especially if you hit the double groove on the wrong groove. And literally, it is a roll of the dice. You can put that needle down 10 times, and you will not know which way it's going to go any of those times. So there you go. My number 8 is Brave.
What do you think of the production on it? Like, don't you find that it sounds dated? Like, it just sounds dated to me now.
I don't know. To me, it sounds very dry.
I think it's the best sounding one, and I'll talk more about that later.
Wow, that's interesting. That's
just
very
because
interesting.
the energy in it, it's so powerful, and there are times when the kick drum, you can almost feel the wind from the kick drum, and Steven Wilson's mix of it makes it even better.
Now, I will say I have not heard that. I have not heard that, but I have heard that it does improve the sound by someone who
I think is one of his
well.
best redos. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Okay.
I need 2 of those, Todd. So if you want to ever part with that copy,
that's the only one of those I have. That's the only because I'm so happy with these 99s that I didn't buy all those deluxe sets, which is
I think Davey is lagging
a terrible
behind.
thing for me to have not done.
Davey's comments are a little bit behind, so he's not.
Yeah, they are.
It's
okay. I'm enjoying them in their 20 minutes ago form.
I guess it's weird because see, for me, it's weird because I'm doing this on my phone and I can't see the comments because the screen's not big enough for me to the comments.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, so now we're on to Todd. Now we really are at number 7.
Okay, my number 7 is Fear, or F Everyone and Run, however you want to say that. I actually think I've also got the box that has my name printed in it.
Oh,
but
see that?
First
that
of all,
I want.
Why is the cover not this? Because I just think that's absolutely gorgeous.
That's way better. Way better.
Yeah, that's cool.
In my brain, that's the cover. Fear is one of those Marillion albums that has parts of it that sort of leave me scratching my head a little bit, and parts of it that are so breathtakingly beautiful that I can't deny good it is. You know, I kind of, when I was talking earlier about how sometimes I want Marillion to get to for their songs to be a little bit more focused. This is a perfect example. It's got the kind of Marillion song, you know, the kind where it gets really, really intense and then everything stops. And then Mike Kelly plays 2 chords on the piano. Dun, dun, there's a key change. And then Steve Hogarth starts singing like, and they do that a lot. And I really feel like Fear is really the most unstructured album. Everything is divided into parts, and too many parts, I think. But when it works, it really works. And I think The New Kings is just absolutely stunning. And it's so powerful. The lyrics are so powerful. And for that reason, Fear jumped up my list to number 7.
Excellent. I'm surprised.
I mean, for me, like if I would,
you go first. No, you go first.
I just want to say that if there was an honorable mention, Fear was number 12 for me. So I really, really enjoyed Fear. It was good.
What I was going to say,
it takes a lot of work to learn it.
Right. I'm a little surprised it's so high on your list, considering you're a little critical of it.
It's just that when it's good, man, is it good?
You see the
it's very true, though. There are too many parts.
Yeah.
I don't know if they needed to break them up like that.
Well, and I had a conversation with, I didn't intend to have an argument with Lucy Jordash, their manager, on Facebook about them calling it F Everyone and Run, but I ended up having one because I said, you know, don't make it harder on yourselves. And she said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, don't shoot yourselves in the foot by giving it a title that people can't say. I think the title's really cool, but I probably would have called it something else. And Marillion tends to do that, but that's kind of what Marillion, and one of the things that Marillion is all about, is breaking rules. So I'm okay
I agree with you.
But at the time I was like, oh, don't call it that.
I agree with you, because I don't like saying, like, in casual conversation, I don't like dropping F-bombs just willy-nilly. So it kind of, I
mean,
agree
you're trying
with
to do press tours, trying to talk about your new album, and you can't say the title.
It's like Van Halen, Front and Lawful Carnal Knowledge. I'll always say the long version of the title.
Right. Yep.
All right.
I'm not offended by it at all. Don't anybody think I'm offended by it. I just think it's not the best marketing move.
I'm trying to say that word less because I say it far too much. That's it. Like, I mean, if anybody's watched the show before, they've seen them come out of my mouth many times, and I prefer not to because my mother watches the show.
Right.
So, anyway, Meat Man, it's up to you now. Can you save us?
So it's my fucking number 7, eh?
And I don't care if he swears because it's not my mother watching.
I had to do it. I'm sorry, I had to do it. Okay, my number 7. I'm going to be my own controversial because I'm a Patriots fan. And you're not cheating. You're not trying hard enough. Mine is from 1988, and you say, "Wait a second, Marillion didn't release an album in 1988." Yes, they did. It's called B-Sides Themselves, and it is making my list. I know it's controversial.
The collection to show it. Hang on.
It's not really. Oh, okay. This way.
Well, it's a B-Sides compilation.
Yes, it's not a live album. And it's the only place that you can get those except for B-Sides. Yeah, there you go. And, okay, Jacob Moon, who is a good buddy of mine, when I first learned about Marillion, I went over to his house to do whatever we were doing, and I had never heard Marillion, and all he did was he pulled out all of these CD singles, Punch and Judy, Market Square Heroes, just tons of them, and that got me instantly interested in a B-side. Actually, after I became suggested this to me 2 weeks ago. For 24 hours, I thought it was top 11 Marillion songs. And I had already known that at least 2 and possibly a third was going to be on my song list from B-Sides Themselves. And those 2 are quite obviously Cinderella Search, which I absolutely love and adore, and Grendel, which a lot of people have problems with, and I completely understand the whole Genesis thing. I completely understand that the one part is pan is completely suffer ready. But the honest truth, if you really listen to that song, other than that part, it's not a Genesis ripoff. It sounds like Marillion. But they shot themselves in the foot with that very obvious ripoff. But I love Market Squares. I love Market Square Heroes. I love Freaks. I love Tucson, Lucky Man. It's just, it's an album that I just had to put on my list. So, number 7, Margaret. B-sides themselves.
So you take the acid and I'll take the dope and I'll get stonied before ye.
I love Margaret. It's weird. It was one of the long tunes they used to put on mixtapes for people, just because of,
right, because they do. There's 2 versions of it, but there's the long band intro version, what you're talking about.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
And congrats to Mike for going to see Neil Young and Crazy Horse in Toronto later this month. Hey, Mike, if you are anywhere near Kitchener, please ding me. Okay, he is from up north, so he's nowhere near us normally. I admire your pick, and I wish I had kind of thought of that, because there's some great tunes on there, including Margaret. I love Margaret. My number 7 is an album that you guys may have heard, Script for a Jester's Tear. 6 songs, just 6 songs, but a lot of long bombers. This particular version comes with the entire Market Square Heroes EP, which is very nice. Remixed too. You see, I haven't had really time to listen to these deluxe editions. They're 4 discs, you know. This is great though. That opening track, the title track, Script for Jester's Tear, with that "So here I am once more," ding, the Mark Kelly piano chords. Yeah. I love it. It's so good. And I got to be honest with you guys, the year that I got into Marillion, I was kind of like a sad sack of crap. I was, my heart went out to this girl that I couldn't have. She lived in Thunder Bay of all places. And man, did I ever identify with the sad sack that was on in the Playground of the Broken Hearts. I heard that line, the Playground of the Broken Hearts. And I was like, oh, he's speaking to me, but then He Knows You Know comes on, and it's like that other side of Fish. That
yeah. I never get tired of that song, though. I have to admit, I love He Knows You Know. I never get tired of it.
I did a video many years ago with him, just getting him to say, "Don't give me your problems," just because I wanted to hear him say that.
And the way he slams the phone down is so raw. It's like a kid with a cassette recorder. It's just so funny.
Yes, it is funny. But it's a great album. It's a little self-indulgent. It's a little pompous. It's a little pretentious, to use the word that Uncle Meat used. And to quote Uncle Meat, this is the kind of band that would use the word pretentious in their lyrics.
It's true.
No, Henry, it's believe it or not, Henry, I have history with 2 different girls from Thunder Bay. Don't ask me. Don't ask. But actually, the one girl I'm talking about that I was heartbroken with, she's actually, we're still friends today, and she actually has contributed to this show in the past. So there you go. And some more love. No, actually, that's not love. He says somewhere else was his number 18. Ouch. Okay. That brings us to, where are we? Number 6?
Number 6.
I think. No. All right. Why don't we take a quick mid-show break? I need to heat up this coffee, and we're gonna.
Okay, let me introduce this.
Yes, I was gonna say, Uncle Meat, can you please introduce this song, because this is a really, really cool tune that Marillion fans are gonna love.
Okay, I mentioned a guy named Jacob Moon earlier who grew up in the same town. me and Mike are in, and
Kitchener Waterloo, Canada.
And Jake Moon is the reason why I became a Marillion fan. He's the reason why I ended up seeing Fish and the Clutching at Straws tour at Massey Hall. And it's very ironic that, you know, the same guy that I went and saw a show in Cambridgeworth where we both brought a cucumber with us because of garden party. That same guy, many years later, ended up opening up for Marillion all across Europe. So it is strange that you think that, you know, that the guy who got me into Marillion and the guy who you know took me to my first show ended up, you know, being a part of the Marillion story somehow. So it's kind of neat.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go.
All right. So this
So
is
it's
in
Jacob
fact,
Moon doing that.
this is in fact Jacob Moon doing Kaylee, and we will be back in 4 minutes.
Remember chalk hearts melting on the playground wall. Do you remember don't escape from moon-washed college halls? Do you remember the cherry blossom in the market square? Do you remember I thought it was confetti in our hair? By the way, didn't I break your heart? Please excuse me, never meant to break your heart. So sorry, never meant to break your heart. But you broke mine. Kaylee, is it too late to say I'm sorry? Kaylee, could we get it together again? I just can't go on pretending that it came to a natural end. Kaylee, oh, I never thought I'd miss you. And Kaylee, I thought that we'd always be friends. You said our love would last forever. So how did it come to this bitter end? Park. Do you remember dancing in stilettos in the snow? Do you remember you never understood I had to go? By the way, didn't I break your heart? Please excuse me, I never meant to break your heart. So sorry, I never meant to break your heart. You broke mine. Kaylee, I just wanna say I'm sorry. Kaylee, I'm too scared to pick up the phone to hear you found another lover to patch up our broken home. Kaylee, I'm still trying to write that love song. Kaylee, it's more important to me
we'll just quickly catch up with the comments here. Thank you, Henry, for watching. Really appreciate it. I'll catch up with you tomorrow. Poor Uncle Meat keeps freezing. Like, you got to keep your meat in the freezer, though. Otherwise, it'll go rotten. So we have lots of sympathy for the meat man and his freezing up. Support for this strange
apologize.
Engine, and no worries. Support for the Strange Engine, with the exception of one song. Guess which one song it is? Yes, it's Hope for the Future. I can't win. And yes, we do have Lederhosen here in Kitchener-Waterloo, but only if you're of German descent, which I am not, and I don't know what he is. So he's various. Anyway, so that catches us up to the comments. Todd, number 6 for you.
My number 6 is Marbles. You know, I used to have the US version of Marbles that was on one CD, and I wish I had kept it. For some reason, I got rid of it, but it was reduced down. Unfortunately, they take Ocean Cloud off to fit it all on one. But I wish I still had that, just for collector's reasons. I think this is a great album. I love the fact that it has You're Gone on it, and yet You're Gone actually charted. Right. I think that was a really smart move for them to put a song like that on there. Like I said, Ocean Cloud. I think The Invisible Man is one of the greatest things they've ever done. I saw them in, I don't know, must have been, it wasn't when this album came out, but it was a few years later in 2011. I saw them in Chicago 2 nights in a row. They opened up both nights with The Invisible Man, and The Invisible Man is just so intense and so awesome, and I just absolutely love it. And you know, the whole album is good. At Neverland, I saw one of the times I saw Marillion was in Cincinnati at a little club called Bogart's, where apparently they've played a bunch of times. And man, when that big note hits towards the end of Neverland, I could feel the wind from Ian's kick drum, and it was so powerful and so good. So, Marbles,
awesome.
Cool.
Number 6.
Excellent. We'll be talking about that some more later. Meat Man,
Good.
number 6.
Well, number 6. Well, my number 6 is an album that kind of begun my re-love affair with Hogarth Marillion a few months ago, and it is Afraid of Sunlight. I cannot believe actually how much I like this album, so much so that I almost put it over my number 5, and to me that would have been blasphemy, so I just didn't blaspheme myself. But anyway, the album is great. First of all, the last song, King, is to me one of the best. It could possibly be my favorite Hogarth era track in ways. To me, it's perfect. I love the title track. I love Beautiful, and a lot of that is because of Jacob Moon, you know, who playing the song Beautiful with Marillion, where Hogarth does the introduction and says something like, "Now I'm going to bring on Jacob Moon to replace me now or eventually," which I just found kind of cool. And I love the song Beautiful. But the big one, and this is going to probably surprise some people, I remember trashing Cannibal Surf Babe for many years. And the weird thing is,
I remember that.
Yeah. And the weird thing is, in the last couple years, music tastes change, and I've been kind of fascinated with post-punk stuff now for a couple years, thanks to Dr. Dave Haslam and others. And honestly, I love it. I absolutely love that song. I have listened to that song probably 7 or 8 times in the last week. It's like the hot list Marillion song for me right now, because I just realized it like literally your musical tastes change, and a song that you completely dismissed as just garbage, now I love it, and I love that it's Marillion doing it. So Cannibal Surf Babe. Ew. Cannibal Surf Babe is a great track, which I'm sure is probably not a shared opinion. But there it is. That's my number 6.
Okay, so I just want to say a few things because this album didn't make my list but could have. One, this is around when Marillion started getting more diverse. So for them to go surf rock, why not? Dare I say, why not? Beautiful is a great song with a fantastic lyrical message. You forgot Gazpacho, which is a fantastic,
it's a great tune.
jaunty little
my
number.
favorite.
I had a girlfriend at the time that I thought was a bit of a drama queen, so I really loved that line. And the stains on your Versace scarf, were they really just gazpacho? I loved that line.
The way he sings that line is so good, too.
It's so good. One more song that needs to be mentioned is Beyond You, which is actually in mono because they were going for the Phil Spector Wall of Sound. So that song is actually in mono if you listen.
Nate.
So there you go. My number...
But I love the album. Love the album.
I would not say anything bad about it, even though it didn't make my list. My number 6 is an album that has come up a couple of times, and I think this is the most difficult Marillion album. Yet it was one of my first. I think it was actually my number 3 Marillion album. All my first 3 are all in my list tonight. Misplaced was my first. I'll talk about my second later, but this was my third, and I only had 3 Marillion albums, so I really devoted time to this. Really spent a lot of time with it. And it didn't take a lot of time to get into Jigsaw. That was sort of like the most immediate song. And incidentally, when I sent Jex Russell, I had a duplicate copy of this box set. When I sent this to Jex Russell, Jigsaw was one of the songs that jumped out to him with that. He particularly liked, stand straight, look me in the eye and say goodbye.
That was pretty good.
That was not bad. That was
That's
not
not
bad. I
bad.
can do it better than Fish can now.
Yeah, now.
Well
Side
done.
2 of this album is dense, and you know it's them showing off. Like, look how smart guy we are when we play our instruments, and it's Fish, you know, showing off how many words he knows, you know, but he's very. I love the mote in your eye, like that's great stuff. And I also think that this has one of the best endings of any Marillion album ever. Is there a better ending than that whole "Where are the prophets"? You know, that whole ending to Fugazi is. Do you realize that whole ending, like the last 3 minutes of this album? They give me chills, guys. I really think
that there is a bit of a theme overall. No matter what area you're talking about with Marillion, they seem to have very strong closing tracks on their albums. To me, it happens a lot. I think.
Yeah. I don't know. Will we talk about Fugazi later on? Probably, but that's. I do want to give a shout out though for the B-side Cinderella Search. If there was ever a B-side that should have been on the album, I don't know if that even was on. It might have been on my list of B-sides that should have been on the album when I did that show with Peter Kerr. At least I hope it was, because if I didn't, that was an oversight. Cinderella Search is got to be in my favorite Fish songs ever. Period. It might be the best.
It might be the best example of perfect melody for Fish. It might be like their coup de grace song for melody to me.
Yeah, and another epic ending.
I love it.
Like
6.
when he's doing that whole ending there. That
song. Yeah.
When he's doing that whole ending there, the never the nets, never the nets, nevertheless, you know, he just gets more and more intense, and then it just
love it.
Crescendo. I wish it was on the album. If that was on the album, it would elevate the whole thing to a higher level. It wouldn't be number 6 on my list. So, but it is number 6. So, Todd, you're taking us into the top 5 now.
All right, top 5. Woo. All right, number 5 for me, The Strange Engine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Thing about This Strange Engine, It hasn't aged well for me. The first track hasn't. Man of a Thousand Faces. I loved it back when this album came out. Now I kind of feel like it goes on just a little bit too long. But what comes after that, One Fine Day and 80 Days, I think are just both remarkable songs. One Fine Day, nobody ever talks about. It is definitely in my opinion, one of Steve Hogarth's best vocal tracks. And the way that he does that, coming down like that chromatic singing, like coming down like just a half step and right back up. He nails the pitches on it, and it's just beautiful to me. Estonia is great, and the title track, "This Strange Engine," I think is really, really strong. Speaking of Marillion songs, they have saxophone in them. That song almost sounds a little bit Roger Waters at times. Really intense, but very pretty in other parts. And my least favorite thing about it is the big hunk of silence followed by him laughing, because it just makes the CD sloppy. I like the laughing. I just wish there wasn't 12 minutes of silence before you get to it.
See, Todd, I'd forgotten that, and I'll tell you why. It's because anytime I have a CD like that, when I rip it to the computer, I go into Audacity.
You chop it off?
I chop it off.
Yeah,
I primarily listen to MP3s because I listen to most of my music at work and in the car, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
I need to do that.
What I also like about your pick is that you highlighted two songs I didn't, which was One Fine Day and Estonia. And Estonia is one of their kind of fan favorite songs.
Estonia is played a lot, and there's a lot of different versions of it. And I know Marillion fans, there are some that are tired of it, but I still think it's great.
Excellent. Okay. Uncle Meat, number 5. We're having issues.
Number 5, we're in the top.
Here we go.
5. Well, hello? Rap. Okay, let's hope this is now better. My number 5 is, been mentioned already, the first album from Marillion, Script for a Jester Steer. I absolutely love it. And to be honest, there's a chance it could actually be my number 4 and not my number 5. There's only one reason that it's not, is that, Marillion's a lot like Rush. Ian Mosley is the new guy. After one album, Mick Pointer was gone, and Ian Mosley is Marillion. And there's a big difference, a huge difference. And I don't necessarily love some of the kind of robotic drumming of Script for a Jester Steer, more in comparison. So, I mean, just for that reason, of the albums that are left, I'd have to put it in number 5, and it's Pointer's fault. I love the songs, love them. They're iconic.
I have heard people say that, and I agree.
That's my number 5.
That Mick Pointer's drumming on that first album sounds like he's just a little bit behind the rest of the band. And once I heard that, I can't unhear it. So, and that's what it sounds like to me. He's not quite keeping up.
Well, there's no question that he's the weak link.
It sounds. There's no feel because of it. There's no feel. He sounds robotic because of it.
Yep, I totally agree.
I was listening to a lot of Marillion this week, and one thing I kept, besides Mark Kelly, which I was just in awe of, was Ian Mosley. And he's got, such a soft touch most of the time, but then when he wants to, he's just,
When you see him, it looks like his arms aren't even moving. It's just like this. And he's making such a big noise with those drums, but it doesn't look like he's even breaking a sweat. Every time I see them, I'm floored by that.
And in the old days, he would play with a cigarette in his mouth. It's like it wouldn't move. He looked like Bundy Carlos.
Right.
All right.
I love 5. I love Mosley. He's amazing.
Sorry, I'm just getting myself reorganized here. I mixed up my discard pile with my regular pile.
I'm amazed I haven't dumped CDs all over the floor during this because I have a complete mess in front of me.
I did that in the very first episode that I did of my Too Much Music. I just had a stack here, and you just heard it crash. Luckily, there were no damages. I haven't opened this yet. I got it for my birthday this year, and I haven't opened it yet.
I've got the vinyl now.
I don't like the new cover art.
It's
I know
okay.
this is one of those. This is an album cover that they George Lucased a bit. You know what I mean? They did a special edition in the 1998 reissue where they kind of fixed a few things they didn't like. So there are some differences, and I prefer the Season's End with the 4 pictures, you know. And it still had the old Marillion logo. It was the last stand of the old. There we go, the old Marillion logo. I like that version, although it does look very much of its time.
You need that Marillion logo for the continuity, for the transition.
Right. It was a holdover. And as the Meat Man knows, a lot of this album was pretty much complete with Fish in the band. And there's an entire alternate version of this album on the bonus disc for Clutching. Fish's vocals, Fish's lyrics, most of the same music. Man, if you get that version of Season's End, then you're sailing. But this is the first album with Hogarth, and he came in, and all this music was pre-written, and only a few of his musical ideas made it to the album. Easter, which was pretty much pre-written, and I believe Holloway Girl was another one that that was largely Hogarth's music coming in. But it's a dark album. You can kind of tell it's a dark period in their lives. But it also has these uplifting moments, like King of Sunset Town has kind of like that uplifting beginning. And as far as Mosley goes, there's this drum roll during King of Sunset Town. And it happens right after that crescendo when Rothery's guitar comes in. And Mosley does this thing like 3 in a row. And it's just freaking mind-blowing.
Yep.
Then we go right into the ballad Easter, which is another gateway song that I used to lure people into the world of Marillion. Uninvited Guest, you know, I don't mind that song. I don't mind it. I like the concept of the lyrics where it's the drugs talking to, or the disease talking to the host human. You know, I'm the uninvited guest. I love the track Season's End. As far as dark songs, I think this is one of Marillion's very, very, very best dark songs. And it's also their first, at least to my knowledge, their first sort of environmental song. Will It Ever Snow Again in England? Yeah, kind of a stark warning. And we have After Me, which is one of the most, I don't know, what is that? It's definitely catchy, but it's not a standard song structure at all. It starts off
lovely,
very acoustic, and then it builds and it builds and it goes into something very hard rock almost.
That was the song I was most excited about when I heard the album. I was most excited about After Me.
The only track I don't like
is
very
anthemic.
Yes.
That that Rothery part, like when near the end where it's so bright, and I love that song. Love it.
Yeah. And there's a B-side on here that should have been on the album. I'm not sure. This deluxe edition isn't as good, honestly, as the original 2 CD version. One of the B-sides was Bell in the Sea, which was a little bit too yo ho ho and a bottle of rum to make it onto the album. And the other one, what the heck is the name of that other B-side? Where is it even on?
The Release.
The release at the end of the day.
On there? I didn't realize that.
It is on here now, and as I'm going through CD too, but it's a live version.
Okay.
I think on the Blu-ray disc you get some audio tracks, but I really hate that the audio tracks are on a Blu-ray and not a CD. Yeah. Like I said, I haven't opened it yet, but yeah, the Release at the end of the day, you're the one who blows it all away. Like, it's just a brilliant song. Very, very upbeat, very uplift. They really did a lot of good uplifting stuff with Hogarth to balance out the dark.
Yeah.
This was probably my 4th Marillion album.
Okay.
Not my first with Hogarth though, but we'll get there. That is my number 5. We're going into the top 4 with Todd's number 4.
All right, my number 4 is Season's End. And here's the vinyl version of with the new cover. You know, had I not seen the original cover, I probably would have liked this, but I agree, I don't like it as much as the original. But the thing that amazed me about this record was that I couldn't believe how much it sounded like Marillion without. It's like they just took Fish out. I mean, everything about the way the band sounds is the same. Which, you know, a lot of times when bands change lead singers, I mean, that's a pretty big change. You end up with an album that kind of doesn't sound like them, and then you have to get used to it. This thing was like, oh my God, it sounds exactly like Marillion, just with a different guy singing, which really kind of blew my mind. I think King of Sunset Town is great. I think Easter is beautiful. But you know, we already we talked about Season 10 already, how good that is. But anyway, I'm looking at, that's funny. The back of this booklet skips After Me. That's not right. After Me was the first song that I was like, wait a minute, do I have the wrong album? After Me was the first song that I got really excited about.
Just note, I just read it here that After Me is not included on vinyl or cassette editions of the album.
Oh, well, that's why.
Right?
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
it was
right.
a CD bonus track. It was a CD bonus track. Isn't that quaint?
Yep.
Yeah.
But anyway, the thing I love the most about Season's End is the space. The space is, I have two favorite Marillion songs. They're tied. Space is one of them. I think that last 2 minutes of the space is just cannot be beat. I think it's been one of the most beautiful vocal performances by anyone. And I just think it's absolutely gorgeous. And I love it. And this album introduced us to Nick Davis, the producer engineer who would go on to, in my opinion, make Genesis a little better in their last couple of years. So, yeah, that's my number 4.
One name I also want to drop because it hasn't come up yet, and also his debut album with Season End, is lyricist John Helmer.
Yeah.
Who actually predated Hogarth. They got a lyricist in the band to help the band. He wasn't in the band, but they got a lyricist to help the band before they even had a singer, because they were so freaked out about not only losing a front man and a vocalist, but a lyricist. So they hired John Helmer, and he did lyrics on every album up until, I think, Anarachnophobia, maybe. I think he was up onto Marillion.com. So very important contributor to the Marillion story after Fish.
And one last thing I want to add about Season's End. I saw this tour. They actually came to Atlanta, Georgia, and they never came back to Atlanta until 2018. It was like in 2018, Steve Hogarth was like, how long has it been here? And somebody said 22 years or however long it was. He was like, no, that's not right. Is that right? But they were amazing. I mean, Hogarth climbed up on top of the speaker cabinets, and it was just like, wow, this guy's good. I was really impressed.
That is impressive, especially, you know, as we get older, it gets more dangerous to climb speaker cabinets.
That wasn't in 2018. It was in 1988. But anyway.
Even then.
Right.
Okay, Meat Man, number 4.
Oh, yeah, 1988. I myself did see the Season's End tour twice. For some reason, they played twice. Well, at Kitchener and Cambridge, which is the same thing, of course, in like a 4-month span, which made no sense. But I'm saying that because, well, I guess things come in threes, because my number 4 is Season's End as well. Yes, my number 4. Yeah, Mike's was number 5, so I got that wrong. My number 4 is Season's End, and before I say anything else, I'm going to address the elephant in the room. I find it funny that 2 people in a row talked about Season's End, and nobody even mentioned the name Hooks in You. So I'll address the elephant in the room.
I did. I said that's the only song I don't like.
You did. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I must have missed it. Okay. Anyway, it's, you know what? I hated it then. I don't hate it as much now, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just a nostalgia, but I don't hate it as much as what I used to. But
it's good.
The space. what Todd said, I couldn't say any better. The last 2 minutes of the space. I recently have watched the live at the Royal with him doing the space like with an orchestra. I mean, if you haven't watched that, you need to watch that. I have watched it 15 times in the last couple of weeks. I can't stop, and it's that end part. It's so passionate. I love it so much. It's just incredible, and I just made the song even better. And then there's Easter, of course, because it's probably maybe the best song they've ever done.
One of Rothery's best solos.
Absolutely, I love the solo. So yeah, and it's good enough to beat at least one Fish album for me, which is different thinking than what I'm used to. So number 4 is Season's End, and yeah, it's the last Hogarth album. Spoiler alert, but it's just the way it is, and I love the album. Oh yeah.
Well, it's your last Hogarth album.
Oh, I know. I realize that. My last.
Okay, so this is an album that needs some redemption after some previous rounds. So we're gonna go back to my first Marillion album, and as soon as I put it in, Pseudo Silk Kimono comes on, and I'm like, okay, so it's this kind of album, is it? It's this kind of thing. And then Kaylee comes on and is like, this is the single, isn't it? Like immediately, you know it's the single. And I was kind of just hooked from that point forward. I loved how the songs flowed into each other. Like Todd, I sort of get a little maybe sleepy-eyed when I start hearing about border caves and Scottish spiders and all this stuff in the spoken word poetry section. But it's Fish's vision. In the end, sitting through the spider wandering through the Scottish caves brings us to this amazing high point where you get Heart of Lothian.
Yes.
And, on my first listen, I'm like, what is he singing? White boys? White boy? Like, what is he singing? This is kind of making me uncomfortable. And then I realized he's singing Wide Boys. And then I realized, there's a reason that this band didn't really translate to worldwide mega success. It's not like people out there are knowing what Wide Boys are. I don't even freaking know. I guess it's just sort of like me and the boys are out. We're getting rowdy tonight. That's how I think of it. But lyrically, this is genius stuff. But it's going to go over 90% of heads, just like it goes over mine. I really love the ending duo of Childhood's End and White Feather. White Feather's another great ending in a long list of Marillion endings. Then you get to the B-sides, and I think Lady Nina is actually a really, really good B-side. What else is on here for B-sides? And Freaks. All the best Freaks are here. Obviously, that's an anthem for the fans. They called their fans the Freaks for many, many years. They didn't change that until 1999, and this is kind of a funny story. In 1999, when they did the .com album, they changed the name of their fans from Freaks to .commies. I kid you not, .commies. Then they changed it to Anoraks later on when Anarachnophobia came out. But
hey, I'm gonna date myself with this comment, but I used to be you were in news groups before the World Wide Web. You're in news groups. I used to be in the Marillion news group, and it was called Freaks.
Yes.
And they sent out like an email digest.
That's cool.
That
was a very long time ago.
You were ahead of the curve, as was this band. They were right into technology and the internet and marketing. Like, that was one reason why I became a fan, because they had an excellent website with a brilliant web store right from the get-go. They were on the cutting edge. So there you go. That's my number 3. Right? No! Oh, shit. I did this out of order. Crap. Okay, so I guess that was my number 3.
You could do your
It
number
doesn't really
4 next
matter.
time.
It really doesn't matter. I'm going to do my
These
number
are all
4
so
on my next
close
turn.
now that it doesn't matter.
It really doesn't.
Fair.
Yeah, and for me to screw up this late in the game is actually really impressive. So we are into the top 3 now with Todd's number 3.
Top 3. Okay. My number 3 is Afraid of Sunlight. And there's the deluxe version right there with the really cool artwork. I like the artwork actually on both of those versions. You know, if you'd asked me a couple of years ago, I might have put this at number 1. My other favorite Marillion song, other than the space, is Gazpacho. I think that build up towards the end, where the last time where they get to that musical melody is just unbelievable. It's really, really well engineered. And it's funny, when they did this remaster, it was only a couple of years after this album came out, and I thought, how are they going to improve the way Gazpacho sounds? And they didn't. It pretty much sounds the same. But I think Beautiful is way underrated. I think that they sound the band sounds amazing during that song. And Ian Mosley sounds great, and it's for a ballad, it's got a really big, thick drum sound, which I absolutely love. And Afraid of Sunrise and Out of This World and Afraid of Sunlight are all great. Beyond You is cool that it's in mono, and King just really blew me away. And when I saw them on this tour and they played King live, it was just brilliant. But I think Gazpacho and Beautiful they're definitely they're both top 5 songs for me, for Marillion. So I've always liked Afraid of Sunlight. So that is my number 3.
Excellent, number 3.
Cool.
All right, Meat
Very
Man.
cool.
What's your next fish pick?
Yeah. Well, my next fish, and it is Fugazi. Fugazi is a bunch of great songs, and one that I've never liked, which is She Chameleon. I've never really. It's just
Same here.
there's nothing to connect to. It's silly, you know. And it's funny. Like, a lot of people like or really love Punch and Judy. I like it. I don't know if I love it. Like, if it comes on, I'm gonna enjoy it. Absolutely, but I don't know. But the last 2 tracks, I mean, come on. Incubus is a top 5 million. Is a top 5 song for Marillion for me. In college hours, and I did a presentation on the song that it basically the whole grease paint mosque thing with the whole song and everything. A song means something to me, and I absolutely love Fugazi. So it had to be my number 3, and there we go.
Brilliant. I meant to do this at number 4, but now it's my number 3. Why not? Dare I say, why not? This album's come up a few times tonight. This is the most recent album on my list. And I think that this is a subject that has come up many times on this show because, personally speaking, you have more time in your life to absorb an album that came out 20 years ago than you do the new album, right? There's no way that I will be able to listen to Fear as often and as many times as I've listened to Marbles. So therefore, Fear, Sounds That Can't Be Made, Somewhere Else, and the other one.
Happiness is the Road.
Happiness is the Road
okay.
didn't make my list. And yeah, and the most recent
didn't
one
make
as well.
mine either. Yeah.
It's hard. Happiness is the Road is so dense. And I never was able to get into it. Marbles is the last one that I was really able to let into my brain and into my heart. And there's so much goodness on here that hasn't been mentioned yet. We have Drilling Holes, which is very Beatlesy in my mind, like heavy Beatles. We have Genie, Who Let the Genie Out of the Box.
I can't believe I didn't mention
choruses.
Genie. It's one of my favorite Marillion songs. Probably
And these are 2 songs that are only on the double. These are only on the pre-order double. Don't Hurt Yourself, which was a single. I had a guy in France send me parts 1 and parts 2 of the single for "Don't Hurt Yourself." It's absolutely mind-boggling to me that "Don't Hurt Yourself" isn't one of the biggest rock songs of 2004. It is such a good song. It has that acoustic backing. It has the brilliant chorus, the anthemic chorus. Man, how is that song not one of the biggest songs of that year? I played this album. I believe, if I remember correctly, I received this album around my birthday, if not on my birthday in 2004. And I was just able to really spend time with it. And Invisible Man, Neverland. Invisible Man has to be one of their best songs. It just builds and it has so much going on. It's one of my favorite lyrics. I will scream again. I am perfectly sane. Something about that line and that delivery. Yeah, this is justified as my number 3, Marbles. I'm sure Todd's name is printed somewhere inside this CD.
It is.
I know mine is. Yeah.
I didn't want to brag.
And actually, I kind of also wanted to mention, even though it didn't make my list, I kind of wanted to mention sort of a brother album. And Arachnophobia was kind of a commercial comeback for them in a lot of ways. It was crowdfunded too. It was the first one that I crowdfunded. And, it spawned all these different spin-offs, like this thing here, this remix album. And
that little sampler album. I forgot what it was called, but it had an Anorak themed cover.
I think, it's not in here. No. There was a sampler album. They did a remix EP. Like, this is rare, by the way.
I've never seen that before in my life.
It was available for a very limited time. Basically, Todd, the idea was they wanted to get played in dance clubs, but they figured the name Marillion would scare people off. So they released this under the name Remixomatosis. The name Marillion is nowhere on this. So this is their only release as Remixomatosis. And it's a remix of "You're Gone," as you can see, which is a song that Todd mentioned.
That's got to be a Mark Kelly special.
No, they generally don't do their own remixes. They farm those out to fans and to professional remixers. I think there's a Mark Kelly remix on Anarachnophobia of...
there is, yeah.
Yeah, of Between You and Me. There's a Mark Kelly remix. But this is interesting because even though it's got the Anarachnophobia guy on it, it's actually a single from Marbles, "You're Gone," which, as Todd mentioned, it charted. Enough people pre-ordered that single, and I was one of them, that song actually charted. So good on them.
Yeah.
And go Meat Man, go. And we go into the top.
Now, is that go as in leave?
No, he's been cheering for you all night.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay, so number 2, Mr. Todd.
I wanted to say something about "Don't Hurt Yourself" because you were just talking about it. It's one of those songs where Hogarth does that thing where he completely screws up his voice for like one word. He goes, "Don't hurt," and when he says "hurt," it's like yourself. And he can go back and forth between that messed up voice and that crystal clear voice, and he's probably hurting himself when he does that, but it's a pretty cool party trick. And he does it great in that song. So yeah, I just wanted to say that about it because we were just talking about that. My number 2. Are we ready for my number 2?
Yeah.
My number 2 is "An Hour Before It's Dark."
There it is. Wow, number 2.
At number 2, and the reason I put it at number 2 is I like the whole album, but the reason I put it at number 2 mostly was "Care."
Yeah.
When I heard "Care," I was so moved by it, and I thought to myself, and I'm going to just out myself here as being a really emotional Marillion listener. I thought to myself, the first thing I thought was, I didn't think Marillion would make me cry again. That melody, when everything drops down and then the keyboards sort of come in towards the end, that moment is probably the most beautiful moment on any Marillion song. And I think that lyric on that last song, "Care," those lyrics are just, they're very best. And I like the rest of the album. I think "Murder Machines" is really cool. I agree. I think it could have been a single. I think "Be Hard on Yourself" is great. I think The Crow and the Nightingale in Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone sort of starts kind of slow, but it just builds into this just beautiful thing, and followed by Care. I just think it's a really classy, beautiful record, and so I put it at number 2.
Then I need to listen with more intent, and
It's hard.
spend more time with
It's a slow burn. It's hard to get into. It really is, Mike.
Yeah, but
I
these
love
are
the
things
album.
that when you
I
do
love the album.
eventually, well, I've now been, there's been 2 picks, and one of them at number 2, and one naming the song Care as particularly sounds like it would be my kind of song. So
Yeah, it's really beautiful stuff.
I recently watched a Pete Pardo video, where, if I was remembering this correctly, that I saw something about Steve Rothery had some correspondence back and forth with Contrarian's own Davey Gallagher.
Yeah, he did.
oh,
Like somebody, because Davey had a tragedy, and I think he connected in some way with Rothery. It kind of made me even more interested.
wow.
Yeah, he Hogarth sent him a pre-release version of the song before it was released, which was
Wow.
very kind. Yeah,
That's pretty epic.
yeah.
What's your number 2, Meat?
When I learned,
Can you hear me?
I want to see if I guessed right.
You've guessed his number 2?
I have one in mind that I think he's going to pick. Yeah.
Okay. I might skip ahead, and if we're jammed here, I might skip. I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead.
Okay.
We can come back. But oh wait, he's back.
number 2, because of how much.
Okay. Okay. I think you're back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
You're back. You are back.
Am I back? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna be quick. My number 2 is Clutching at Straws. I love it.
Right.
I love everything about it. Some of the best songs that they've ever done, and I adore it. I even adore the depression of it, because in Brave you have to have sympathy, but with Clutching at Straws, it's the empathy that you feel for him in things that you can relate to in some way, even when you're a teenager. Like, and it's put in a way that is just unbelievable. And the album is unbelievable. And it's an Ian Mosley fest. It's by far his best album. And it's all, and Pete Travalis also great bass lines all over the album. There's only one reason it's not number 1, because something else exists. I don't know what else to say. I love Clutching at Straws very much.
Brilliant. Okay, my number 2 is an album that I'm guessing nobody likes, but it was my first Hogarth, and I got this in the summer. I guess it was summer 2000. And I was like, wow, Marillion sure have changed from the band that I know. It was this picture in particular here that kind of threw me. When you got Mark Kelly with like a weird tribal paint job on his head. And I was like, wow, this band has changed. This album's going to be wacko. What is this going to sound like? And it's harsh. This album is like overdriven loud. It is abrasive. It is somewhat unpleasant at times. It opens with noise. It opens with a cacophony of noise. But then it goes into another song about the environment. It's kind of a playful song called Under the Sun. It used to rain dreary and gray most every day, but not anymore. It's about the brighter side of global warming. Everybody
Yeah.
will have a beachside property. It'll be summer all the time in England. Look at the bright side. And we'll roll in the radiation. We'll have fun under the sun. I love this album, guys. I seriously love it. I prefer this version to the 2013 remixed version. I like the abrasive harshness of this version. I think there's some great songs on here. We have The Answering Machine, which is jaunty and has sort of a weird rhythm to it, all Ian Mosley. We have 3 Minute Boy, the song about Liam Gallagher. Now She'll Never Know is one of the most haunting songs I've ever heard. And Hogarth's voice is so like fragile on it. Then we get into These Chains, which has almost like a Beatlesy melody to it, but much darker. That was a single, by the way, These Chains. We have Born to Run, which has almost like a David Gilmour kind of touch to the guitar playing. It's very slow. It's very bluesy, but bright. And then we go into Cathedral Wall, which is just gothic and slamming keyboards, just incredible keyboards. Mark Kelly must have got some new software that year. And then A Few Words for the Dead, which is the epic closer. And then we're not done. Because what really hooks people is the remix of Memory of Water that is on this thing. It's called the Big Beat Mix. And it's got, I don't know what you'd call them, like not techno drums, but it's a loop. It sounds like Mosley, but it's a loop, and it's really powerful. And it's relentless. And it's completely unlike the album version of Memory of Water, which has no rock instrumentation. This one has Rothery soloing all over the place. It's freaking great. And in those years when I was getting people into Marillion, if it was people of that alternative rock, I'm into Nine Inch Nails, I'm into Smashing Pumpkins. If it was that kind of, I was going to say that kind of girl. Yeah, it was always a girl. I was always trying to woo a girl with my awesome taste in music that they never heard. I'd always throw Big Beat Mix of Memory of Water from this album onto the mixtape. Always.
The mixtape. Yeah.
Every time. There's a lot of girls out there that threw a lot of my mixtapes in the garbage, and they all have the Big Beat Mix of Memory of Water. That is my number 2, Radiation. And thank you, Grant. I'll be damned as
Grant.
well. I'll be damned. Todd, this is the pressure is on because it's number 1.
Before I get to my number 1, I want to say some good things about Radiation. It didn't make my list, but I also like it. I think it's very creative. One of the things that I've never been able to get over was in interviews before that album came out, Mark Kelly said, I'm not going to use any string-type synth sounds, which is one of my favorite things that Mark Kelly does. So for me, in my world, it was kind of like, Eddie Van Halen saying, I'm not going to play anything fast. So it's just like, so it has more organy kinds of sounds. It has some cool sounds, like you mentioned, Cathedral Walls, but it's always felt like it was something that Mark Kelly needed to get over and to get out of his system. But I do think it's a very creative album. And it was very close to making my list. So I just wanted to give it some props since you like it.
Follow-up question, Todd. Follow-up question.
Yes.
What do you think of the 2013 remix?
I like it a little better, but I don't think it's any big deal. I think it's just a little bit better, but just
because I like just kind of smooth the edges. Is really
one of the things that they did that I like is they cut out that part at the end of 3 Minute Boy where they're all going, yeah. They cut that out, which I don't like. So, but little things like that. But I don't think there's a big difference between either one, and I certainly don't mind the original one. All right, my number 1, Brave.
Oh yeah.
So let me tell you something about Brave. When Brave came out and I heard it, that emoji where the guy's face is red and the eyes are really big? That was like me after hearing Brave. It knocked my socks off. And I remember I went on a date after it, and my date said, is everything okay? And I was like, I just heard this really powerful album, and it really affected me. I mean, I was just like total goth boy after hearing Brave. But the thing that I love so much about Brave is, well, there's a lot of things I love so much about it, but the power, the way that the way that Ian Mosley hits those drums during Living with the Big Lie, I don't think they've ever matched that power. There's at one point in Runaway where it just goes, and it's just, the bass just bottoms out, and it's just so aggressive. And Goodbye to All That and Wave and Mad in the Opium Den and that whole big long thing, I'd never heard anything like that before. I'd never heard anything that dark and disturbing before. And I was just blown away by it. And I listened to this again a couple of days ago, and it got to that part in The Great Escape where he says, "Don't ask me why I'm doing this." And my eyes closed and just tears came out. And I was just like, that never doesn't get me, that part. I just think that is so, a bridge is not a high place. Icarus would know that it isn't far to fall when you've fallen from the moon.
Yeah,
man, it's so beautiful. Mm-hmm. And I saw them in '95, and they played for the Afraid of Sunlight tour, and they played The Great Escape, and I was just a mess. I absolutely love it. I think it's a really powerful album. I love how it ends with Made Again. It's perfect way to end that album. And yeah, that's my number one. They've never affected me like they did on that album.
You know, it's really funny you should say that, because I remember I was working with this girl at the record store, and this wasn't a girl I was interested in, for the record. It was just a girl that I thought I needed to introduce some Marillion to. I burned her a copy of Brave, and I wrote on the CD, "This album will change your life."
That's how I would have felt about it. I would have. It sounds like something I would have done at the time.
I don't know if it did, because she quit the store a few weeks later. But now, Todd, on that box set, which I don't have, is there anything that sort of replicates that experience of the 20 minutes of water music? Is there anything like that on there?
You know, I am guilty of not spending a lot of time with this box set. It's disc 2 is the original album mix. Disc 1 is the Steven Wilson remix. Disc 2 is the Dave Meegan mix. Disc 3 is live at La Cigale. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. And disc 4 is the rest of that.
Okay.
And disc 5 is a Blu-ray with 5.1. So I don't think so. I don't think so.
Well, that's interesting. So this is still the
you've
only
got to
way.
hit that alternate groove on your vinyl copy in order to hear that.
So this is, if you want to hear Marillion selectively giving you 20 minutes of water, this is the only way to get that experience.
I guess it's better than the 20 minutes of silence you get on this Strange Engine.
Good point. Yeah, that's a good one there. The solo, Rothery solos haven't gotten enough love here tonight. They've gotten a little bit. And Pete Travis has not gotten enough love here tonight either. No. One of the B-sides to Brave, there's some instrumental B-sides, and some of them have some really cool bass stuff that you can hear.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that was pretty epic. Meat Man, how do you follow that?
Well, I mean, it's clear that his number one and my number one are albums that truly meant a lot to us. And I mean, Misplaced Childhood is the only answer, like for me. And I remember when Jacob Moon gave me the cassette. I had it for 2 months. I never touched it. I just never really bothered. And then one day I was going downtown, so I was like, okay, I'll put it in my Walkman. And I got on the bus and was planning on going downtown. Well, there was a stopover, so I had to go to a second bus. And instead of going on the second bus downtown, I just sat on a bench and listened to the whole album, because my mind was blown, and I had to hear the whole thing. And it turned out, I mean, there's so many people I know. Like, it's like friendships are almost based on how much you love that album, and Clutching. I mean, it's just weird. I mean, there's a lot of people that just love it, and when it comes on, it just it changes you. It do back in to every time.
Well, I think I don't think we're going to be able to hear. Oh, there.
What?
He
If
waits for you to say something.
If this was an
Did you miss
SNL
all that?
sketch, yep.
No, I think we got most of it.
No, we got the first half at least.
Oh my! I am so sorry about this. It's usually me stuttering, not the video
Not
stuff.
the
Like,
feed.
this is just
Yeah.
weird. I apologize.
That's okay.
Damn it. Anyway, it's my number one.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I love it. I mean, it changed my life.
Yeah. And imagine how the record company felt when Marillion said, "Yeah, we're working on this new album. We've got 2 songs called Side 1 and Side 2." Because that's pretty much how it went. They had 2 sides and that they were refining. All right, my number 1. Obviously, this hasn't come up yet on my list, so we'll go for it. I spent a lot of time thinking about this because Marbles has more emotional impact on me. Radiation has more emotional impact on me. So why Clutching at number 1? Well, I think at the end of the day, which is a Marillion lyric from Season's End, at the end of the day, Clutching at Straws, I think, might have my favorite just songs in terms of Marillion songs. They really honed their songwriting at this point. They weren't doing too many things that were meandering off into into gothic castles and hills with monsters and fairies and all that other stuff. It was more grounded. Almost any song in this could have been played on the radio, but I think Warm Wet Circles is really good. I think Just for the Record is not too bad. You know, deep cut, Just for the Record. White Russian's brilliant. It's very epic. Incommunicado is great fun. I can't think of another rock song that references Legoland. I'm a Lego fan. There's a bias here. But if anybody else out there can name another song that references Legoland or just Lego, I'm curious. We have Slaint. Come on. I mean, that's pure epic right there. And Sugar
so
Mice
simple, but also epic.
Yeah, simple and epic. And Sugar Mice is just beautiful. Again, this hit me during my sad sack phase. So when Fish sang, "And if you want my address, I'll be number 1 at the end of the bar where I sit with broken angels, blah, 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 nursing our scars." I'm like, that's me. I have scars, you know. But I've never been a drinker, as Meat can attest to. He's probably seen me drunk twice in my life. So, you know, it wasn't that aspect of this album that really appeals to me, because this is really an alcoholic's confession. There's a whole thing in here where if you don't end this lifestyle, you won't reach 30. You know, that's pretty bleak. That's a bleak moment. That is a bleak moment on this album. So that part of it has never really had any impact on me personally, but at the same time, I enjoy listening to Fish struggle. Oh, frick. Look at this comment. Ed Sheeran has a Lego song. Well, shit, that sucks.
Roger's the hero we didn't know we needed.
Anyway, that's going to be my number 1 is Clutching. I'm actually with Todd that I think that's a brilliant cover, even though Mark Wilkinson.
That cover.
I love it.
I think it's the contrast of the darkness with the little bit
way
of color.
that the logo is drawn, like it's made of gold.
It glows. It glows. And so I'm with you. I've never agreed with Mark Wilkinson on this cover. I think it's great. You can see that the main character Torch there, you can see that he's got his jester costume sort of hanging there at his side. I think the caricatures or characters, whatever you want to call them, the sketches there look great. Personally, I think maybe they wanted more, but then maybe the cover would have been too busy. It kind of looks more like a depressed bar when it's this sparse. If it was filled up like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, wouldn't be the same, wouldn't have the same atmosphere. So I think this is more appropriate to the music inside.
Yeah.
Good point.
And I have to give a shout out to one of my favorite
Good point.
B-sides, if not my favorite Marillion B-side of all time, the much maligned Tucson. I don't know why it's so much maligned. I love Tucson. I think it sounds like ZZ Top, circa Afterburner, to be honest with you. What is it about Tucson that people hate? I think it's great. So that's my number one.
I love it.
Oh, and thank you for watching, sir. Catch the last half hour later.
Thanks, Davey.
Thank you. And Roger apparently loves Ed Sheeran. I do not. I do not. But that's fine. I have never actually really listened to him. I couldn't name an Ed Sheeran song. I'm just being facetious here. All right. So, gentlemen, that was it. That was a pretty epic set of lists. We covered almost every Marillion album. There's a few that did not make any lists. Sounds That Can't Be Made, which is
there are a few. I was
pretty
just
good
going to
album.
say that. Yeah, I was just going to say that. The thing about Sounds That Can't Be Made for me is that Gaza and The Sky Above the Rain are just absolutely stunning, and then the middle of it, not so much.
Kind of sags a little bit.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel about Happiness is the Road, highs and lows. So
Happiness is the Road is the first one I
this.
never had time to you know,
it
I
takes
was like
a lot of time.
Yeah. This Train Is My Life is the best song in that, and I couldn't tell you which of the two discs it's on. I know each disc is supposed to have its own mood.
I like Trap the Spark, and that's what kind of bothers me about it is the red one is stronger than the blue one, which is weaker. So that is kind of a big flaw to me.
Interesting. Okay, well, Meatman, any last words? Is there anything you want to shout out that we missed?
No, not really. You know, I basically, like I had said, like, you know, Fear would have been my 12th. And there are, you know, like a few that I probably could give another listen to just because I really haven't delved in enough. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the list. And I found it fascinating that, I mean, Todd and I are very different on the fish thing, and basically it looked like I'd say Afraid of Sunlight is one that we really agree on.
Yeah,
and the new album,
which
cool.
I will spend more time with that. That will be my pledge after the show, is to spend more time with that.
Yeah,
I also want to
just
mention a few other albums. The acoustic album Less Is More has some new songs on it. There was one in there called It's Not Your Fault, which really,
that one's great.
That one gets
that
me.
one's great.
That one gets me. There's also the live album La Gaza Ladra, which is, to me, that's a pretty darn good live album.
Yeah.
There's an acoustic album called Unplugged at the Walls, which was recorded at a little restaurant, and it's brilliant. It has, I might stir up some. It has, to me, the best version of Fake Plastic Trees that you will ever hear.
Oh,
Steve Hogarth
agree with you.
away. Yeah,
100.
When he
100%.
when he sings that line, and I could blast through the ceiling. Oh my God.
Yeah.
My heart stops. Brilliant acoustic album. And there's another acoustic album that they did. It was a Christmas album, and the name is escaping me. A Piss Up in a Brewery.
Yeah. Another
great album. They did a live version of Cinderella Search acoustically, but without the ending. So kind of important.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because they obviously recorded 2 nights, and Hogarth is about to introduce Cinderella Search, and you can hear somebody yell out, Cinderella Search! And Hogarth is like, oh, you spoiled it. You were here last night, weren't you? Anything else that I want to shout out from their massive discography?
I'm trying to think of something that I didn't mention.
There's a lot of stuff from the Fish years, like the Reel to Reel EP. There's, of course, the Market Square Heroes EP, which has the original version of Grendel on it. There's a lot of stuff for you to dig deeper. And that's what's great about this band, is you will never stop digging if you start.
Yeah.
There's so much. There is so much out there. And it's a rabbit hole that I was glad to delve into back 25 years ago, half my life ago. And we are here for the love of Marillion, and I thank you both for turning in 2 amazing lists with some surprises. I didn't expect a lot of those, especially from Todd's side. I didn't expect a lot of that. And
I'm kind of a Hogarth fanboy.
No, that's fine. I love Hogarth. He's hard not to like. He's very charismatic, and he's got such a
great list.
kind of sense
Fun.
of humor. Yeah.
And once
Todd,
again,
do you have anything?
And once again, I apologize for the problems here.
Oh, that's okay.
I apologize for these problems here. Like I said, well, the laptop, it's because of all the updates, and it just wasn't settled yet. Like the last time I did it with the laptop, like a few weeks ago, it was fine. So I couldn't even use the laptop, and the phone thing just doesn't seem to want to work. So,
well,
I apologize for the problem.
We will try again with another list in the future, and hopefully it'll go smoother. But you did your best, and that's all we can ask. And we got all 11 picks in, so that's brilliant.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so I always like to end the show going around and find out what everybody's got going on. Todd, do you have any videos or streams or anything coming out that you can talk about?
Well, I don't have my own channel, so and that's
no, but I mean, you often participate with the Contrarians.
Yeah,
and with all these other folks.
I try to let me see what's going on here. I have we just did top 10 Flock of Seagulls songs on Grant's channel, which was tons of fun, and we also did a Rick Springfield album ranking, which everybody was surprised to see me on, but I absolutely love Rick Springfield. And let's see. I guess that's pretty much the only thing I can talk about right now. But the highlight of my last couple of months is being on Grab-A-Stack. So I really appreciate the invite. So hopefully we can do something else.
Yes, for sure. We will do that. Maybe the 3 of us, perhaps, with another band. Meat Man, you don't have a channel either, but you have some gigs coming up that you're going to. I know.
No. Well, yeah, I do have. Well, I'm seeing Saga at a bowling alley in a couple of weeks.
Is it really?
I'm seeing a Bath. I'm seeing a Bath. Yeah, it's at a bowling alley with a band called Harlequin and Images in Vogue.
Wow.
And it's a bowling alley, but it's supposed to be a huge bowling alley. So but I'm looking forward to seeing Saga for the first time. And then I'm seeing the big one. Massey Hall in October. I got an 11th row ticket for Beat. Steve Vai, Danny Carey, at 2011, and Adrian Belew doing the King Crimson 3 album stuff. I can't wait for that show.
Prog rock heaven.
Yep.
Indeed.
All right. As for me, tune in tomorrow to Peter Kerr's Rock Daydream Nation, where we poke the bear. We're poking the bear. If anybody out there saw our episode on the decline of Western civilization, part 2, the Metal Years, you know that Stevie Rochelle from Tough saw that episode and was quite critical of it, calling us all probably Rush fans. We will be reviewing Stevie Rochelle's debut album, Tough, tomorrow on Rock Daydream Nation with John Clauser and Steve Deluxe, and I can't wait. Next week on Grab a Stack of Rock, we will be going live at 8 o'clock p.m. with Jex Russell and Dr. Catherine, and we're going to be talking our top 5 music videos that we loved from childhood. For perspective, Dr. Catherine and I grew up in the mid-'80s, where much music came out in 1984. So most of our picks are going to come from that year. Jex Russell's a little bit older. He started listening to music in the late 90s. So who knows what he's going to pick. And Mike is proud to be a Rush fan, and
Me too.
I don't blame you. I hope you watch, even if you don't like Tough. I think you will appreciate what we did on this show, because Peter wanted it to be fair and didn't want to take cheap shots at Stevie Rochelle, and we didn't. So there you go. That's what I got going on. Rock Daydream Nation tomorrow, and Grab a Stack of Rock next week, Friday at 8 o'clock p.m. And that's about it. Now, Meat Man, as you know, we like to go out on a song. What do you say we go out on another Jacob Moon song?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, you want to introduce this one?
This is Steve Earle.
You know it.
Steve Earle doing Someday. This is Jacob Moon doing his rendition of it. Jacob Moon, the man with the velvet voice. Enjoy.
Enjoy. Todd, thank you so much. We will talk. We will get
Thank
together
you.
again soon. Meat, sorry about the problems. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching.
I apologize.
No worries.
Take
buddy.
care.
We are Canadians. We make a living out of apologizing. This is Jacob Moon,
Yeah,
fellow
yeah.
Canadian, Jacob Moon with Someday. Take care,
Indeed.
everybody.
See ya.
I'm gonna play us out with a song that's for Mr. Eric Litwiller here, and for the good old times of living in Kitchener Waterloo and all that good stuff.
Awesome.
And this is a Steve Earle song. All right,
Yeah.
because I know that Eric is right into Steve Earle, or was.
Big time.
We
Big
both
time.
are.
All
We
right.
both are.
All right, so here it is. It goes something like this. There ain't a lot that you can do in this town. Drive down to the lake and then you turn back around. Go to school so you can learn to read and write. So you can walk into the county bank and sign away your life. I work at the filling station on the interstate. Yeah. Pumping gasoline and counting out of state plates. You ask me how I sent to Memphis, son, and where's the nearest beer? Well, they don't even know that there's a town around here. Someday I'm finally gonna let go. I know there's a better way. I wanna know what's over the rainbow. I'm gonna get out of here someday. Now, my brother went to college 'cause he played football. Me, I never even got through high school at all. Got me a 67 Chevy, she's low and sleek and black. Someday I'll put her on the interstate and never look back. Yeah. Someday I'm finally gonna let go. I know there's a better way. Well, I wanna know what's over the rainbow. I'm gonna get out of here someday. I'm gonna get out of here someday.
Wicked.
Beautiful team, man. Awesome.